chatting to Ben from Abstract Delight. Ben, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
One thing I've always wondered, how did you come up with the name of the band?
This is a kind of a bit of a weird one. The band name actually came to me in a dream. And I was talking to the former singer of an old band that Matt and I were both in with the singer. And at that point, we were not far off from announcing our band and playing our first show. We still didn't have a band name. And Gregor gave me the band name in a dream. So there you have it.
Take us back through the formation of this band. When was it and how did you all get together? We know about you and Matt in that other band. What about the rest of the band?
Yeah, well, Matt and I first played together in Deluge, which was back in about 98, 99, roughly. So nearly just over 20 years ago. I did another band, a few bands after that. About early 2015, I had approached Benny Vienneman, who was the curator of the Black Conjuration Festival, which was getting pretty big at that point. I reckon they'd had 4 of them. And I sent him a message and said, hey, mate, do you reckon you could get my old band Quasar on there as a reunion? We'd not played for a good number of years, maybe 5 or 7, roughly, I can't remember. And he said, yeah, sure, man, if you can get it back together, we'd love to have you on board. So the original concept was I was going to bring Matt in to bolster the live lineup of a reformed Quasar, which didn't end up happening because for whatever reason we hadn't played together for ages. My brother was the drummer in that band and we didn't quite get it together. Anyway, we had the gig booked. Matt said, well, why don't we start a new band, which was probably the last thing on my mind at that point. But I said, yeah, sure, why not? We got this gig that was about 5 months away and we wrote a set of music relatively quickly, which was the 4 tracks that became that first EP from Out of the Void. And then we managed to pull Brody in, who was our first drummer, Brody Green, who, as you would know, is probably, incredibly talented, gifted drummer in Adelaide, probably one of the best going around. He was happy to step in and pick it up. We had literally a few months to get it all together. I reckon he started with us in about June or July, and the show was about mid-September. So we literally had, a few months to pull it together. Everyone thought I was crazy because you could never start a band in such short time, and got the whole thing together in a really quick amount of time because I guess it was just the right time. There we have it, sort of thing. That was sort of how it all happened. So yeah, Matt literally had just said, why don't we start a new band? So we did, and we wrote a couple of songs together, and I wrote a couple of songs by myself, which we sort of then brought in, and we had our first bass player, Mark, who literally just sort of hung around for a little bit to help play live and did the first recording, and then parted ways with us. And then we ended up bringing Ben into the band, who was the guy that booked us on our first show anyway. So it was kind of all just mixing in the right circles with the right people at the right time and just kept falling into place.
Right, so tell us about this EP, From Out of the Void.
Yeah, so From Out of the Void was literally just that first sort of glimpse of what this band could be, which I suppose was a continuation of some sort of psychedelic, sort of black metal stuff that I'd worked on with Quasar, which was my first band on guitar after playing drums in all the bands I'd been in up until that point, pretty much. From Out of the Void was, I guess we didn't have a whole heap of time to gestate on it, and it was very organic. I guess in hindsight, we still are happy with those songs. We've still played those songs live up until writing the new album Worth of Material, which we spent a lot longer to write, which, I guess that first one was really just a template of what we could achieve, I suppose, and then have a bit more time to set aside to focus what we would want to say on the next album.
Tell us about Talheim Records.
Yeah, so Talheim Records is an Austrian record label, and they've been around for a number of years. I think he's coming up to 10-year anniversary. If it wasn't this year, it might have been last year.
How did you get onto them?
I'm always incredibly optimistic and positive about, we've got a great product and someone will love it. We've just got to find, it just takes that one person to have faith in us, I suppose. And we'd sent off quite a few demos to people, and it wasn't quite the sound that was happening at that time, and even surprisingly in the black metal scene, it can still be quite clicky in terms of what's popular and what's going to sell. Even though you wouldn't think it, labels still think like that. So we shopped around that EP because we recorded it pretty much straight after we did the Black Conjuration show in September 2015. And Matt and I, we sort of throw a lot of concepts around about art and the way we'd like it to look. So knowing that we wanted to have a very specific sort of project, and like the look of the band and everything would fit right for what felt true to us, we already had that product all ready to go. And I was working with an artist from Lithuania who realised all the artwork for that first album, and he actually said, I'm doing some artwork for another band from America who's trying to get signed to this label. You should send them a copy. And that was Tauheim Records. So we'd actually, I'm not afraid to say that we'd sent off about 50 demo copies of the EP to 50-odd labels. We had a bit of a list. We got close with a couple, but it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't their flavour. But Tauheim loved it straight away, and he signed us, and he's putting out the next album as well. The thing that we resonate with him probably most strongly is his ethos on quality material. The package is, it's not just about the music. I mean, the music obviously is first and foremost what people hear, but if you're going to invest $20 in a CD, don't just give it to them in a, plastic jewel case with no artwork. Make it worth their worry. So, we did a 5-panel digipack with him with a 16-page booklet, great big 4-panel fold-out thing, and it was quite luxurious. And the next one's going to be a little bit different, but, moving in that sort of same realm. So that's why we are with Tauheim.
Okay, so tell us about when you decided to get things organised for this full-length album, and tell us about the process of that.
We wrote the first one pretty quickly. We played that for probably up until sort of into 2016. We had a few shows. We played with Mournful Congregation in Melbourne, and we brought in Ben as the new bass player. Some new music started to evolve pretty quickly. But I would say from, for the last 3 years, it's probably taken 3 years to write it, record it, and get it to now where it's literally ready to be put out. That might sound like a long time for a lot of bands, and I know other black metal bands have released 3 albums in a year. And that's kind of not our philosophy. Like, I am a bit slower to get things finished because I'm a bit, for lack of a better word, I'm a bit anally retentive about everything being just right. To me, it gives us the faith and belief in what we've produced, that we're happy with it. In between, recording an album and doing film clips and producing merchandise and T-shirts, it all costs a fair amount of money that we put in. And that probably stretches out the recording process for us, unfortunately. But I think we're happy with the result. And if it takes a little bit longer to write and record, then so be it.
So the name of the new album is?
We've got a bit of a long title. This is called Magna Sapientia Quaerere, To the Depths of Thy Soul, which roughly translates to the journey within, to the depths of thy soul, which is, referencing the lyrical content and what this album means.